History and Learning from the Past, a call to action against Arab fundamentalist terrorism. History and learning from the past will move us forward. In this chapter, I want to guide you, the listener, into the depths of your heart's conscience. This is the inner voice that guides us, leads us, and drives each person towards their true desires and being. This same intuition, when heeded, will guide us in taking responsibility. But what responsibility are we talking about? The understanding that there is a problem beyond a mere challenge, one that requires extremely difficult decisions outside the democratic legal framework. Every Western country understands that it is very difficult to unite the entire populace around laws that are not democratic, laws that exist outside the legal system. It is challenging to legitimize actions that do not represent the conscientious, moral, and proper decisions of the people. Here we are discussing a solution to the fundamentalist Arab terrorism that has infiltrated reformed Western countries. This problem, deeply entrenched, developed after World War II when many immigrants moved to these countries seeking livelihoods, only to eventually infiltrate the core of these nations. Contrary to their initial quest for better lives, many immigrants have not integrated. They are dissatisfied, and this discontent was evident in the general votes of Great Britain, France, the United States, and other reformed countries. It was clear to every reasonable person that these countries did not want them, not because of race or skin color, but because of the belief system they support. This belief system seeks to take over and alter the foundational values of the host countries. The Quran itself, in its fundamentalist interpretation, abolishes the essence of Western countries. Their method of subjugation is not suitable for any Western nation. Therefore, Western tolerance must come to an end. This patience, extended by many Western countries, has reached its limit. If the public were to vote democratically, it would result in a situation similar to the rise of the Nazi movement in the late 1930s, where democracy allowed for a system that ultimately changed the nation's core. We are in a much better position than during the rise of the Nazis. Today, Western countries are no longer willing to tolerate the phenomenon of Arab fundamentalist terrorism and its evil practices that have penetrated their territories. These countries now want to repatriate the immigrants who do not fit into the Western system, those who do not recognize freedom of speech or the core values of Western countries. Their faith and teachings stand in stark opposition to the values of Western nations. Therefore, I am calling for countries to unite, make extremely difficult decisions, and put an end to this threat once and for all. The time has come for decisive action. Western nations must collaborate and form a global coalition to address this menace effectively. By doing so, we can protect the values and freedoms that define us and ensure a safer future for all. The fundamental question: creating a tri-continental agreement to combat Arab fundamentalist terrorism. Introduction. The fundamental question is, how can we create a tri-continental agreement between reformed countries that support the total destruction of all terrorist arms and nuclei of the Arab fundamentalists who act in the name of the Quran to destroy humanity? How can we establish a global army where each country contributes soldiers and every country is involved, and one army is solely dedicated to this purpose? Legal and democratic challenges. Isn't this a violation of the democratic concept and the democratic way things are conducted? Perhaps it is, and sometimes situations like these oblige us to act in a more extreme, creative, and radical manner. Sometimes, to extinguish a fire, you need to fight it with fire. The need for global unity. We must stop deceiving ourselves as nations that call for the destruction of terrorism, while on the other hand, we do not unite to create one body that will destroy terrorism. We need to create a legal agreement and state that people with ancient beliefs that do not fit the modern reality do not belong in reformed Western countries. Proposed solution. We need to establish a foreign military by a continental coalition of all the reformed Western countries, leading to massive recruitment for this global military body that will defeat terrorism. This is the only way. It cannot be that Israel fights terrorism on one hand, while in England, Arabs slowly take over. It cannot be that Jews are fighting in Gaza without addressing the severe problem in France. Call to action. In every Western country where there are Muslim Arabs, a situation of complete betrayal of democratic values has arisen. They do not share these values. Therefore, it is time to call this by its real name. Arab Muslim immigrants need to return to their own countries. They have their own lands, and they should go back to them. Conclusion. An immense coalition of a unique army, in which all reformed Western countries participate, is the only way to defeat terrorism. If Westerners fail to understand, if people growing up in Western societies do not understand how Arabs support an ideological, conscienceless system aimed at completely destroying all good and creating a submissive society contrary to Western values, which are based on individual freedom, occupation, worship, and freedom of expression, then what place do they have in Western countries? Therefore, we must rise and demand from our leaders to completely remove them from our countries. We must ensure that we do not feel uncomfortable preserving our Englishness, Frenchness, Americanness, or the Jewishness of our homeland, Israel. You understand what I am talking about. Changing the approach. We must change our approach and understand that by allowing them to enter our Western systems, we are letting them harm us. This infiltration affects us deeply, and we have no other way to solve this except through force. The use of force begins first and foremost by legislating laws and using power to simply remove Arab Muslim immigrants who support terrorism. It does not matter. They have no place in these countries. Arabs should be in Arab countries, and in doing so, we will completely eliminate all terrorism. A call for unity. This is the only way. Therefore, in the name of all respectable Western nations that honor and respect themselves, we must say, enough is enough. We do not want Arabs in countries that do not align with our values. We do not need to convince them. We need to educate them to return to their countries. The laws must change. A lesson from tragedy. What happened in Israel on October 7th symbolizes a great awakening for the world. We should not fear Arab fundamentalist terrorists and their supporters, even among the confused Westerners who hold Palestinian flags, as if they do not understand that it is a fundamentally corrupt society. I do not buy into the notion that these people are merely taught to silence their childhoods. These are matters as old as history, dating back to the Exodus from Egypt in Jewish history, where there was also a city of blood and murder. It may be that the biggest fear for people who grow up in pluralistic societies is asking themselves whether it is possible to support a course of action that is completely against the values they were raised with. To this, I say yes. Although the end does not justify the means, in this specific case, the only means left to us is to act by creating laws and an international agreement that all legal systems recognize, forming a single document that provides a solid foundation. This document would give the official approval to build a unique Jewish army whose goal is the destruction of all terrorism at an international level by fundamentalist Arabs. This is a different approach born from a different situation. We have come to know it, and it is renewing itself in an extreme way, bringing us to the point where the citizens of the State of Israel were attacked on the 7th of October, 2024. As I said, the Third World War started at that time. What happened in Gaza was based on a concept. If we act in a certain way, we will receive a certain reaction. However, this did not happen. Why didn't it happen? For the same reason that Muslim Arab communities came to England, France, and other Western countries, and the citizens, who grew up in democratic societies with values of freedom of speech, struggled with this reality. If people who grow up in Western societies cannot understand how Arabs can support an ideological belief system rooted in the complete destruction of all that is good, then there is a fundamental issue that must be addressed. This belief system aims to create a society that is fundamentally opposed to Western values such as individual freedom, occupational freedom, worship, and freedom of expression. If these individuals do not align with these values, why are they present in Western countries? It is imperative that we rise up and demand that our leaders expel those who do not share these values from our nations. We should not feel uncomfortable about preserving our national identities, whether it be Englishness, Frenchness, Americanness, or Israeli identity within our Jewish homeland. The situation is critical. Western societies have allowed individuals who do not share their core values to enter and cause harm, leading to a gradual erosion of our societal foundations. This infiltration is a clear and present danger. It is not just a matter of differing opinions, it is a matter of fundamental values and safety. For example, in the United Kingdom, there has been a noticeable rise in radicalism and violence in areas with significant Muslim populations. Cities such as Birmingham and London have witnessed incidents where radical ideologies have led to violent clashes and the radicalization of young people. The lack of effective action to address these issues has resulted in the spread of extremist beliefs that undermine the very fabric of British society. Similarly, in France, cities like Paris and Marseille have experienced severe challenges with radical Islam. The 2015 Paris attacks, which resulted in the deaths of 130 people, were perpetrated by individuals who were radicalized within these communities. The failure to address these issues has allowed extremist ideologies to fester, leading to a cycle of violence and insecurity. In Israel, the attacks on October 7, 2024, marked a new level of aggression and brutality. This event should serve as a powerful wake-up call for the world. The concept that if we act in a certain way, we will receive a certain reaction did not hold true in this case. Instead, the response to these attacks was far from adequate, leading to a situation where we are left vulnerable to further aggression. The key to addressing this problem is to act with decisive force. This begins with enacting robust laws and using our collective power to expel Muslim Arab immigrants who support terrorism. They have no place in countries that uphold democratic values and individual freedoms. Arabs should reside in Arab countries where their values align with those of the society. This will help to significantly reduce the threat of terrorism. We must not only acknowledge the severity of this issue, but also act on it. In the name of all the Western nations that honor and value their principles, we must firmly state, enough is enough. We cannot afford to have individuals in our countries who do not share our fundamental values. There is no need to persuade them. We need to ensure they leave. We must take decisive action to expel those who are not aligned with our values and educate them on the necessity of returning to their own countries. The laws need to be changed to address this issue effectively. The tragic events in Israel on October 7th are a stark reminder of the need for immediate action. We should not fear fundamentalist Arab terrorists or their supporters, even those in the West who are confused and misled. They are part of a fundamentally corrupt society. The historical context of this issue is also significant. Even after the Exodus, Israel faced cities marked by bloodshed and murder, illustrating that the problem of radicalism and violence has deep historical roots. In summary, the need to act decisively and implement changes to address these threats cannot be overstated. Our safety, our values, and our way of life depend on it. In addressing the growing threat posed by individuals who do not align with the core values of Western societies, we must confront a critical issue. If these individuals do not share our values, then they should return to their societies where their beliefs and ideologies are in harmony with the prevailing cultural norms. This is not merely a matter of policy, but a necessity for maintaining the integrity and security of our societies. The fundamental issue. Western societies are built upon fundamental principles such as individual freedom, freedom of expression, religious liberty, and personal autonomy. When individuals enter these societies but hold beliefs that fundamentally oppose these values, such as ideologies that advocate for the destruction of these freedoms and the imposition of totalitarian systems, they pose a serious threat to the social fabric and safety of our communities. Examples of the danger. United Kingdom. The United Kingdom has faced significant challenges with radical ideologies infiltrating communities. Cities such as London and Birmingham have seen an increase in radicalization and violent extremism. For instance, the 2017 Manchester Arena bombing was carried out by a radicalized individual whose actions were rooted in extremist beliefs. The ongoing issue of radicalization highlights the danger posed by those who do not share the fundamental values of British society. France. France has been repeatedly targeted by extremist attacks. The 2015 Paris attacks, which resulted in the deaths of 130 people, were executed by individuals radicalized within French communities. The continuous struggle with extremist ideologies in French cities like Paris and Marseille underscores the urgent need to address the presence of individuals who do not align with democratic values and who perpetuate violence. Israel. The attacks on October 7, 2024, in Israel represent a new level of brutality and aggression. This event demonstrated the severe consequences of failing to address radical ideologies effectively. The inability to contain these threats has left communities vulnerable to further attacks and disruption. The urgent need for action. The presence of individuals who support ideologies fundamentally opposed to our values poses a serious risk. To mitigate this threat, it is crucial to implement robust measures, including enacting strong laws. Governments must enact and enforce laws that address the presence of individuals whose beliefs threaten the core values of their societies. This includes stringent immigration policies and measures to expel those who support or engage in terrorism. Expelling those who do not align. Individuals who hold radical or extremist views and do not align with the values of Western societies should be required to return to their countries of origin. They should reside in societies where their beliefs are congruent with the prevailing cultural norms. Educating and reinforcing values. It is essential to reinforce and educate about the values of freedom, democracy, and individual rights. This includes ensuring that new arrivals understand and adhere to these values, and taking action against those who attempt to undermine them. Conclusion. The events that have transpired, both in Israel and in Western countries, serve as a stark reminder of the urgent need for decisive action. The continued presence of individuals who do not share our core values poses a severe threat to our safety and way of life. In the name of preserving our democratic principles and ensuring the security of our societies, it is imperative that we take firm action to address this issue. We must be resolute in our commitment to upholding the values that define our societies. This means ensuring that those who do not share these values return to their own societies, where their beliefs are in alignment with the prevailing norms. Our safety, our values, and our way of life depend on it.